Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I'm really good. Well, no, not really good. That's an exaggeration. It's been raining all week, so I haven't been able to go kayaking, which actually makes quite a difference on my mood. But that's okay. We're not supposed to be happy all the time, right? That's not what life is about. So I just keep going and accept that this week is meh. It's just meh. Today, I want to talk about feelings. Actually, not just today, because as I was outlining this episode, I realized there was so much content, so much amazing content that I needed to split it into 2 episodes. So this week is going to be about the feelings that get in our way, in the way of our progress. And next week is going to be about the feelings that we want to focus on, the feelings that are going to propel our growth and that we want to create on a day-to-day basis. Okay? So this week, feelings we want to avoid as much as possible. And next week, feelings we want to binge on. All right, but before we jump into today's episode, let's celebrate the fact that it's episode number 70. So amazing. So I want to renew my commitment to you. I still love recording podcasts for all of you self-growth nerds. I have lists and post-its with ideas on them, full of inspiration. And it's one of my favorite things to do. This and coaching my clients. If I could only do 2 things, this is what I would do. Record podcasts and coach my clients. So I'm super happy to be here. If you just joined us, welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds. If you've been there from the very beginning, that's mind-blowing to me. Please reach out. I love it when you guys reach out and tell me like, I've been listening to you. And here's what happened in my life ever since. Here's the impact that the podcast had on how I view the world or what I've had the courage to undertake. This warms my heart and fuels me to keep going every time. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'm just a human being who lives in a house in Montreal. I'm not like a A-list celebrity. I'm 100% going to answer your messages and we're just going to have a fun little conversation. All right, so I first want to discuss indulgent emotions. So indulgent emotions are optional and detrimental. They stop you in your track. They are a way to protect yourself, a way to avoid failure. Okay, but they're a waste of time. I'm going to give you many examples so you understand what I mean by indulgent emotion. Okay, the first one, I've got 6 for you. The first one is confusion. Confusion is a very popular one. And, you know, the point here, as you might recognize yourself in what I'm going to say, is not to beat yourself up. It's just to notice and be like, oh yeah, I do that. I drink some of that soda for sure. Okay, so confusion is when you're very attached to the story that you don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what I want with my life. I don't really know what to do about that. I don't know. I don't know. And you're so convinced that that's true, that you don't know. And it makes me laugh so much because when I talk with my clients and they say, I don't know, I ask them, okay, but if you had to take a guess, like what would you say? And then they go, oh, well then I would move to Mexico and I'd start a business. So I tell them, so you do know, you're just afraid to admit it, right? So often our primitive brain is going to use confusion as a tactic to keep us away from anything that's unfamiliar, keep us away from the unknown, okay? You know so much more than you think. So don't let your primitive brain make you believe that you don't. There is so much wisdom in you if you're willing to trust yourself. And I do understand that with some important decisions, you're not going to know right away. But there's a difference between indulging in confusion and just trusting that the answer is out there and letting it come to you without force. Okay? And I trust you to be able to feel the difference. Are you swimming in confusion because you want to avoid taking action? Or are you just accepting that right now you don't know and it's okay and you get on with your life and trust that the answer will come to you eventually? There's a difference. One of them is dramatic and the other is more peaceful. Okay, next we have worry. Worry is also a feeling that many of us indulge in. And that's when we play worst case scenarios in our mind over and over and over again. Oh, this is going to happen, and then this might happen, and then this might happen, and then this might happen. And it's like time stops and we're no longer in reality. We're in worry land. Okay, this is an indulgent emotion. Just notice when you're doing this, it's not serving you. You're not approaching situations in a resourceful, empowered way. You're not like preparing with a clear mind. You're swimming in worry. Again, there's a difference. Are you making yourself sick with worst case scenarios, or are you trying to mitigate risk and be prepared for what's coming? Now, before we keep going, I can already hear some of you think, but Marie, that's easier said than done, right? Stop worrying. I'm not telling you to just stop worrying. I know it's not as easy as pressing a button. It's a practice, right? And like I will repeat many times in this episode, it's about noticing first and foremost, noticing when you're doing it. And then you have a space between the moment where you notice and what you do after. You can learn in this sacred space to reorient your thinking, because thoughts and beliefs are what creates our feelings. And some of our thoughts are intrusive thoughts or old beliefs. Our conditioning that comes from our family, the society, and we gain our personal power back when we become the witness of these thoughts and decide, do I want to keep believing this? Or do I want to shift my perspective? And when we shift our perspective, we shift our feelings as well. Again, that's a practice. It doesn't happen by clapping your fingers. That's what I do with my clients, and we do this for 6-7 months. And it takes time before you carve new pathways in your mind, right? It takes a lot of time. It takes awareness, it takes repetition. It's also what some therapists help you do. Okay, I'm just saying you're not at the mercy of your feelings. You have some power over them. And it all starts with awareness, okay? So let's keep going. Next, we have melancholia. That is my favorite. Melancholia is basically when you sit on the sofa in a blanket and think about sad things. And you watch sad movie trailers, listen to sad music. You just want to sit in sadness. It's like you need your fix. For me, it feels like I need my fix of melancholia. And it's fine. None of these feelings are quote unquote bad. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that after a while, you got to ask yourself, is this what I want to be doing with my time? Is this useful? Not that you need to do something useful every minute of every day, but you want to be able to say, okay, that's enough. Listen to enough sad music for now. I can get on with my day. Okay? Now, next one. We had confusion, worry, melancholia. Number 4 is self-righteousness. Self-righteousness is when you have an idea of how things should be, how people should act, what people should think, how things should happen. There's a lot of shoulds. You have a sense that you're right and that they're wrong, and you have opinions. I made an episode about this called Strong Feelings and Strong Opinions, I think. It's a recent one. There's a line to draw in the sand between having preferences and expressing what's important to you and what you value and standing up for what matters to you, and swimming in self-righteousness, having opinions for the sake of argument and just wanting to be right so much. This reminds me of how I've been seeing many people posting about how Instagram has changed and how it used to be so much better in the past, and now it's full of adverts, and the algorithm has changed everything, and it's not the place that it used to be. And yes, we can have a conversation about that, but we want to be mindful and ask ourselves, is this the most valuable use of my time? Or am I just complaining for the sake of it? We want to choose wisely where we put our energy. We want to choose our battles. Do you want to be a consumer and a complainer, or do you want to be a creator? That's what I always bring myself back to. Okay, I'm complaining right now, but what am I going to do about it? If I take Instagram as an example, instead of complaining about like what it was versus what it is now, I ask myself, how do I want to use this platform? I'm in charge. No one's forcing me to be there. No one's forcing me to scroll. So how do I want to use this tool in a way that feels good to me, in a way that's empowering for me and my business? So yeah, that was self-righteousness. And from the feeling of self-righteousness, that's one of the actions that comes with that is complaining and blaming and judging and all of that. It's the same thing when we gather with our friends and we talk about other people. We have an idea, we have a manual of how other people should behave, and we love to be with other people who agree with us and talk about how this other person is not following our manual. It reminds me of, and by the way, I'm guilty of that too. I do it too sometimes. It reminds me of the quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, which is, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. It's just easy. It's the easy way to connect, but it's not a meaningful way to connect. Instead, we want to try and focus on talking about projects, about what we have read or what we have seen or experienced, getting curious, asking questions about how things work. We want to talk about dreams, about what we would love to try, things like that. Such deeper connection can happen in these types of conversation. All right, so that was self-righteousness. Now, next, we have number 5, pity. Pity, self-pity, is when we go, oh, this always happens to me. My dates never work out. The other person always ghosts me. I'm just not lucky. Or I remember when I started in business, I was like, I reached out to 4 people. No one answered. Or like, I should have clients by now. I did everything I could. No one's replying. It's like feeling sorry for yourself. I mean, we all do it from time to time, and it's just about noticing when we're in a self-pity spiral, because it's not helpful. It doesn't serve us. It doesn't even make us feel better. It doesn't even comfort us. It just makes it worse. Life is hard. It's like you got to get with the program. Yes, you got to date many people sometimes in order to find the right person. You got to reach out to many people before you get a client. You got to try many times and fail many times before it works. That's just how it is. And if you subscribe to this romantic story that like life should be easy, then you're always going to fall into the trap of feeling sorry for yourself. And that's going to slow you down so much. So it's like, get your head out of your butt. And I'm talking to me too. Get your head out of your butt and get to work. It's like, and also it's like, give yourself a hug. You're doing great. You're showing up. You're working hard. That's great. Now back onto the field. Okay? Self-pity is not self-love. You want to be able to give yourself self-love. You want to be able to recognize your efforts. But that's not the same as feeling sorry for yourself, okay? Feeling sorry for yourself like can look like you're having empathy for your struggles, but it's like it's a poison. It's a poison. So try to notice when you're doing it, okay? And be like, honey, you're doing great. Yes, life sucks sometimes. Now quit the pity party and get back on it. You can do this. You got this. Okay, so that was self-pity. Now to the last one, number 6, self-loathing and guilt. Thinking things like, I'm the worst. I'm so bad at this. I always get it wrong. This is all my fault. I'm the cause of all my problems. And I want to be mindful here because my goal is not to shame anyone who's struggling with mental health, who might be going through depression. Please get help if you struggle with thoughts like this every day. But I want to address the instances where we might indulge in the emotion of self-loathing without necessarily struggling with depression. We can practice noticing when we let our brain go there and see if we can gently bring it back and realize like that's going on. That's my brain lying to me, walking me in the self-loathing direction. And I can just notice, take its hand and walk back in a better direction. The tricky part is that sometimes we think that self-loathing is making things better. And I'm going to give you an example with one of my clients. She did something that she regretted with a family member. And then she apologized, but they were upset. And so there's nothing else that they could do apart from accepting that the other person was upset. But instead, what they did is indulge in self-loathing and guilt and, withdraw and sit in the sofa with those thoughts like, this is all my fault. I caused this. And it gives us the sense that it's like our duty to do that. Someone's upset with me, therefore I should feel bad about myself. But it's not helping anyone. It's not serving yourself or the situation in any way. It's making yourself feel worse. And it's not doing anything for the other person. It's funny because with all of these indulgent emotions like confusion, worry, melancholia, self-righteousness, self-pity, self-loathing, guilt, it looks like we're busy, like we're doing something. Like, oh, I don't know. Worrying about the worst case scenario, like feeling like defensive about a topic and knowing what it should be like. It feels like we're using our brain power in a productive way, but most of the time what it leads to is us feeling bad and not taking action. Or if we do take action, we don't take action that's going to create the life that we want. Like if we feel self-loathing, we might take the action of drinking alcohol, for example. That's not going to fix our issues, and that's not going to create the life that we want. If we feel self-righteous, we might take the action of writing like a aggressive post on social media, but that's not going to create the life that we want. If we worry, we might take the action of calling everyone to ask a lot of questions or micromanage our team. But again, that's action, but that's not the action that's going to create the kind of life that we want. One last example, if we feel confused, we might take the action of asking all of our friends what they think we should do. And if you've ever tried that, you know it's just a recipe for more confusion or for making decisions for other people. So yes, you're taking action, but you're not taking action that's going to create a life that you love. Okay? So, whenever you notice yourself falling into indulgent emotion, the first thing to do is just that. Notice. Zoom out, notice what you've been doing, and do not beat yourself up. Just be like, ha, I am indulging. And then decide how long you want to give yourself to keep indulging. Like, do you want another piece of the chocolate? And it's okay. You get to decide. Sometimes I'm like, I'm going to be melancholic all evening. And tomorrow I'm going to move on. Okay? You're the boss of you. Then get back to what you're doing. Get back to what's right in front of you. Connect with reality. Connect with the facts of what you know, of what happened, and then get coached. Get coached. I mean, so often I would never have noticed that I was indulging in those feelings if someone else would not have pointed it out, because sometimes it's in the blind spot. Okay? You can also ask yourself sometimes how you can channel it. Okay? Sometimes when I go off on like a self-righteousness spiral and I think about someone and I'm really annoyed with how they acted and I have opinions about what they should do instead, then sometimes I channel it into a podcast. I turn the topic into a podcast episode. If you're feeling melancholic, for example, maybe you're going to feel inspired to write a poem or write a song. And that's amazing. If you're feeling self-loathing, maybe you can channel that into writing a love letter to someone. So you stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about someone else. There's a coach for people with ADHD that's called Meg Kiersted. One exercises that she recommends is like whenever you feel down on yourself, looking outside the window, finding a stranger on the street, and for like 1 minute, you think of 3 things you wish for them. So when I did the exercise the other day, I was listening to a podcast, and she was sharing this exercise. There was a guy walking by with his dog who was on his phone, scrolling his phone, and like had a big frown on his forehead. So I thought, okay, what do I wish for this person? And just see what comes to mind first. And what came to mind was, I wish that he has a relaxing moment today where he lets everything go. I wish for him that he has a moment where he notices the trees and how beautiful the leaves in the wind are. And I wish for him later that he connects deeply with his dog. And for a moment, it takes you out of your mind. So that's just an example of how you can channel feelings like self-loathing into something that is going to serve you better. Okay. Now I want to move on to sharing 3 noble-looking feelings to watch out for. These feelings are kind of like the cousin or the friend that you really enjoy for a few hours, but you don't want to spend a whole weekend with. Okay? You love them, but they might get on your nerves sometimes or after a while. So number 1, excitement. Excitement. What's wrong with excitement? Well, I thought for the longest time that nothing was wrong with excitement until I realized that using excitement as a fuel is what burnt me out again and again. Because I would go all in 110% because I was excited about my idea, excited about my project, and then wonder why the week after I had 0 energy. That's because excitement is not good fuel. It's just like drinking 6 coffees per day. It's not sustainable. So it's fun in the moment when you experience excitement. It's great. It's like you're high on life. But then that means the next day you might be low on life. Because you cannot be vibrating so high all the time. So yes, be excited, but don't use excitement as a daily fuel. We want to find fuel that's going to be available over time. Okay? And I'm going to talk about that next week. Now, the second feeling to watch out for, that looks so good, but can be really dangerous as well, is empathy and care. Empathy, because it's beautiful to be a really caring person until you forget to care for yourself. Until you care so much about others that you always put them first, and then you drain your energy doing so. It comes from a beautiful place. You say yes to helping the people that you love because you care about them, but you don't necessarily have the capacity. So you have to be able to recognize that and to set boundaries in order to protect yourself, because if you drain yourself, then you won't be able to help. And you also have to trust the other person's capacities. They do not need you unless they're a baby. They do not need you, and they can rely on themselves. They can learn to rely on themselves, and they also probably have other people in their lives. And if they don't, then maybe they need to widen their support network. Okay, so you have to give the other person the benefit of the doubt and trust that they will find their own way. Because if you always think, oh, they need me, I need to be there. Again, I'm not talking about like if you have a little baby, it's different. But if you're always thinking like, oh, they need me to be there, it does you a disservice, but it also does them a disservice because they start depending on your presence. Okay, it's codependency. We want to both be able to be independent. Okay, so that was excitement. Then there was empathy and care. Be careful. Don't, sprinkle it on your meal. Like, don't put too much salt on your meal. Salt is tasty, but too much of it leads to kidney stones. Or I'm not sure how kidney stones work. I'm not a medical expert, so please don't hold me accountable for that. Okay, so number 3 is duty. Duty sounds really good. Like, I'm a loyal person. This is what I have to do for my country, for my family. Like, this is what my family expects of me. That's what we've been doing for generations and generations. This is the tradition. This is what needs to be done. This is just how things are. Danger. There is something beautiful in duty until it turns into going against what you really want. The best example that comes to mind is like someone whose parents have a business and they feel obligated to take on the business and they feel miserable. And I mean, I'm talking with people I know in mind who are like 50 years old and they've taken that on when they were really young, taken their parents' business and spend so much time complaining about that's not the life that they wanted. I mean, this is so sad to me. And my parents have a business too. They would have loved for me or my sister to take over, but that's not what we ever wanted, unfortunately for them. And they were okay with that. I mean, even if they hadn't been okay, we would have needed to have the courage to go, our own way. Duty is beautiful when you choose that this is what you want. Like, duty is important to me. I choose to take my parents' business. And there is a sense of pride in there because you're honoring values that are important to you. See the difference? Another smaller example is, and I had a few clients talk about this. Oh, I have to stay at my job for at least 1 year because otherwise it's not going to look good on my CV. Okay? I'm not sure if duty is the right word here, but it's the have to. I have to do this so that. But there's so many possibilities. There's nothing that you have to do. If you leave your job before 1 year, you'll find another way to create the life that you want. That's what I believe. There's nothing you have to do. Okay, that's like too rigid of a way of thinking. Again, it's like zoom out. There's so many other possibilities. You don't have to make yourself miserable here. And one of my clients I was speaking with this week just finished working together after 7 months. She said that the main thing she learned was to open her mind to changing her beliefs. So she had a very strict idea when we started working together of the kind of person that she was and how she was supposed to behave. She had an open mind in life generally about other people and about the world, but when it came to her, she had constructed her identity over time and she didn't consider that it was, movable, flexible. That's what we worked on together. Like realizing that there's not one way that you have to be. There's not one way to parent. There's not one way to build your career. If there's infinite possibilities. So once you open up to that, there is so much freedom and lightheartedness and creativity. So that was it for today. If we summarize, there was the indulgent emotions. So notice whenever you fall into the spiral of confusion, worry, melancholia, self-righteousness, self-pity, self-loathing, guilt. Notice, decide how long you want to give yourself there, and then get back to what you're doing. And ask yourself how you can channel it if it applies. Can you create something out of that? Can you turn it into something that's going to serve you? Okay? Or that at least is going to make you feel better. And lastly, we talked about feelings that look good, but might get in the way of your progress, like excitement. Excitement might lead to burnout. Empathy might also lead to burnout. And duty might lead to feeling constricted, feeling stuck. Okay? So be mindful of these feelings. And next week, we're going to talk about the feelings that can propel you forward, that are going to help you achieve your goals, that are going to help you turn your dreams into a reality, and influence the results in your life in an amazing way. Okay. So I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.